guys, it's Erica. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about my pothos plant and exactly how I've been able to propagate this guy and grow it into a beautiful plant like this. So I know this is very different from my usual luxury handbag videos, and like I mentioned in the beginning of this year, I did want to do other videos about other topics including home and living, and one of them is how I tend to my indoor garden. So in today's video, I'll go through the propagation method that I use, starting from these cuttings. I'll also show you some of the progress, and then when I choose to transplant it to another medium. Okay, so in order to propagate this, what I did is I just took some stem cuttings, and you can simply place all of these stems into water and it would definitely just work already to start growing your leaves. But what I like to do is just do an additional step, which allows me to get more cuttings, and it allows for the water to get to the leaf very easily and a lot faster, so that your plants will start growing a lot quicker. So what I have here is a plant with aerial roots, and you will notice that some of them have roots and some of them don't. It doesn't really matter. What I mean by aerial roots is this root right here, and what I want to do is I want to look for the node. So the node is where the stem will meet the leaf right there. On a pothos, it's very easy to distinguish because it does have aerial roots or a little bump that delineate where that node is growing. And what I like to do is I just want to cut in between each of the nodes. So simply take my scissors like that and then just cut it in between right there. So this allows me to get a lot more plant cuttings from a single stem. So the part in between the node, this is not very important. If it's very long, just cut it a little bit shorter, and then you can put all of those into water once you're done. For the top part, I don't tend to cut off the topmost node, so you can see that the node is here. I would usually cut it right here, but instead what I do with the top is I count 3 nodes down. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then I would snip it off right here. Once I snip that off there, I sort of sacrifice these 2 bottom leaves. And what I mean by sacrifice is I simply cut them off and throw them out because they're useless to me. So now what I have is simply a top stem with 2 lower nodes, and this is where the root growth will be. So I found by doing that, it actually allows me to have the top part of the plant growing beautifully. And this allows for a little bit of instant gratification, especially if you are a new plant parent like me and a little bit impatient and you want to see growth on your plant right away, because when the roots are developing, usually your plant will not push out new leaves. You really have to have a developed root system before it will start to develop more new leaves. So with this method, I'm able to have a little bit of a vine already on some of my plants, even without having to wait so long for the root system to form. So I went to get a clear glass, and I prefer a clear glass simply because I can see the root growth. And then I'm just going to put in a little bit of water into there, and then I will just simply place all of the leaves that I was able to cut into water. And I want to try to keep the leaves at above water level, so I didn't fill the glass all the way up. I just have it something like that, but you do want to make sure that all of the nodes are actually in water. Okay, so once that's done, I want to show you guys my roots that have developed on my older plants so far. I've had these in water for about 2 weeks, and I usually will transplant them into soil at this time once the roots have really developed. And I have 2 types of pothos. So the first type that I have is the one with all of the just green leaves, And then the second type that I have is a variegated version. And this is like a marbled pothos, which variegation just means that it has this extra sort of creamy part to the leaf, which I really like. These are actually harder to find and they grow a little bit slower, but I find that if you're able to mix the two of them together, it makes for a very nice plant. So some of my plants do have a bit of variegation, and then some of my plants are all totally green. So these roots are about 2 weeks old, and I want to show you exactly how they look. The first plant that I picked up actually has 0 roots. Unfortunately, this one didn't really bloom just yet, but it hasn't root rot. And what I mean by root rot is this part gets a little bit slimy. It still looks perfectly fine. So I'm just going to keep it in water and see what happens with it later on. The second one that I have actually has a pretty good root system already. I hope the camera is catching this. When the roots get to about this length, it's the perfect time to repot it into soil. And if you want your plant to grow faster, I do highly suggest to put it into soil. But if you just want a plant for like ornamental reasons, then go ahead and put it in water, because it will live in water and it's perfectly fine like that. So I have that one here, and then I also have this one, which also has grown quite nicely. You can see that there is a little bit of rotting on the node part, and I just leave that alone. So the node is not always where the roots will push out. Like this node just died right there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, it's a little bit rotten, a bit gross actually. I might just cut it off or something, but it has developed roots around it, and that is really nice. And the roots look pretty healthy. They're kind of thin, but usually when you do propagate it in water, it's a little bit of a thinner root, rather than when you put it onto soil, then it develops more of an elaborate root system. And this one actually has 2 roots growing. I didn't cut off the top part like what I showed you guys here, and I didn't take off the leaf right here either. So this one has 2 leaves growing. So the roots actually grew downwards, and it's pushing out a new leaf already right here. This one, the node, for some reason, it didn't push out any roots either. So that's why I have one node with a really long root up here, and then the bottom node that has another really long root. And aerial roots usually will search for water, and then that's after they hit water, that's when they sort of turn into this white color. So that one has a very interesting root structure. This one is just a single leaf cutting, but this is a variegated version. And then it has a very nice thick root on it. And I like a thicker root actually, because I think that means that the plant is healthier. I've been fighting with my camera to be able to do macro shots. I don't know if it's beyond the capabilities of my camera. Okay, I should have thought of this earlier. So that's how the root system looks like on this. See, it has a very thick root system, which I really like. So all of these were actually put into water at the same time, and they're all showing different results. So I guess it really just depends on like I don't know, the plant itself. And I want to show you guys how my other plant looks. This one is actually a month old already, and I have it actually planted together with my ZZ plant. And this is another extremely easy to propagate plant. Just put it in water. And what I did is I actually put it together with Pothos plant, because Pothos releases a hormone which allows other plants to grow very quickly. And yeah, well, except this one. This leaf node still has no roots on it, but all of the other ones do have. And I've had this one for about 1 month now. So let me just take that out and then show you guys up close. This is how my Pothos has been growing, and I've decided not to put this into potting mix. So if you are going to put it into soil or another sort of substrate, you want to plant them on very quickly, and you don't want to wait till the roots grow to this size, because once they grow to something like this big, then they get used to being in water, and water roots are a little bit more fragile than those growing in soil like this. That is it for the propagation part of this video and my progress so far. And I would say also, if you are planning to put this into soil, choose to put it in soil as soon as you can. So once the roots get to something to about this length, go ahead and put it already into your potting mix. And for the pothos, it works with anything. You know, I have tried so many different things with this plant, and it is literally indestructible. I first put it into cocoa peat, and then I decided that maybe it didn't like the cocoa peat too much because it wasn't able to absorb enough water. So then I decided to retransplant it into soil, and then I just didn't like the way that it looked. So I took everything out to see whether the roots were growing, and you should never ever do that. Don't disturb the plant. What I learned is maybe plant it in something that is clear, like a clear plastic container or something, so that you can see how the roots are growing. But since I was very impatient and I just wanted to see if it was actually growing underneath, I decided to take everything out and destroy the roots, and then we started back at square one. And then I planted it into soil, which it has been in soil now for about 2 weeks straight. And so far it has grown extremely well. So let me show you up close my pothos plant. And these were all just single leaf cuttings, like what I did in the beginning of this video. And you can see that it's already starting to climb. It's already starting to become a vine, and all of this is all new leaf growth. So very happy about that. And yeah, even underneath you can see that it is quite a number of new leaves growing, and that's how many stems I actually planted into this. It's something like 20, I think, and then I just put them all into this plant pot. And one of the things I've learned is that you shouldn't put it in something that's too big. At first I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna put it in something that's very big, simply because I'm very lazy and I didn't want to have to replant, especially since I don't like getting my hands dirty and I don't like the thought of soil. But when you plant a plant in something that is really big of a container, it can't absorb the water that it needs because all of the water sinks to the bottom. And funny, now that I say it, I mean, it sounds so common sense, but at the time that I was planning this, I never ever thought of that. And I decided to plant this in way too big of a container, which later on I decided to move it again into this smaller container. For the one that is growing in water, it's growing extremely well as well, so I don't want to disturb it anymore. I think it is okay growing in water. This whole portion right here is all new growth. And I think for this plant, I will just keep it in water for now because it's just really easier for me to take care of a plant in water. I don't have to remember to water it. And then I think that it grows quite nicely. It grows a little bit slower when it is in water, but that's okay with me because sometimes you just don't want your plants growing really wild, especially if you don't have a lot of space in the house. Anyways guys, that is it for this week's video. Sorry if I did a little bit of rambling. Not quite used to talking about plants just yet, and plant vocabulary, I guess, is not so great just yet. If I pronounce things a little bit oddly, please forgive me. I will get better at this. But anyways, thank you all for watching my video, and I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did learn something. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, and I will see all of you guys in a future video. Bye bye.